Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners, and we are under a week away before we get into our regular season content. I can't be any more excited. In fact, Jake and I met for a couple of hours right before this video to finalize all of our schedules, not only for our videos here on YouTube, but our membership-only videos here on the channel and all of our Patreon content. So don't forget, if you're wanting to get extra content and help support the channel and what we're doing here, you can join here as a member on YouTube for only $4.99 a month. The join button is right down below this video next to subscribe. If you have an iPhone, you'll have to use something else to join, but you can also join over on Patreon as well. $20 a month. You get into an awesome Discord channel with myself, Jake, the rest of the Headliner team, everybody else in the Discord, and you get exclusive content, all of our DFS stuff with Joel, and you get some other awesome things to go with it as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's how you can get some extra content and you can help support the channel. Let's go ahead and talk about this video for today, though. Our must-drop players. So by the time a lot of you are watching this, more than likely, your drafts have already taken place. But for those of you still getting ready to draft, this is also good information because you're not going to want to stash any of these guys or anything like that. But I'm taking a look at some players who are just too widely owned. And I'm taking a look at them based on their ownership percentages over on Fantrax. So let's go ahead and talk about quarterbacks first. A couple of guys that you can just go ahead and drop. You don't need them. They're not going to turn into anything this year. Don't worry about it. The first one up, Deshaun Watson, for a couple of different reasons. Based on all the information coming out right now that the Houston Texans are going to trade Deshaun Watson at some point in time, but they're not getting the type of value they feel like you deserve, which makes sense because there are some pretty serious legal things still pending with Deshaun Watson, and we don't know what's going to happen. Houston basically announcing we are going to make him inactive all season long and leave him inactive unless we get the trade offer that we would want. And I don't think he's going to be getting any, I don't think they'll be getting any type of trade offers anytime soon until all of his legal troubles have cleared up, but there's really no end in sight for that either. So if you're holding on to Deshaun Watson, hopefully you're going to get to play him at some point this season. I would go ahead and kick that thought process to the curb and drop him right now. Only over 68%, almost 70% owned right now is far too high. I doubt we see Deshaun Watson play it down in the NFL this year. Taysom Hill at 56%. Jameis Winston is officially the starting quarterback, which means Taysom Hill moves back to a role where, yeah, he might score a touchdown here or there, but the reason he was picked up a lot over a year ago was because he had tight end eligibility. Well, he doesn't have tight end eligibility anymore. He has quarterback eligibility, and he's not going to be on the field enough. He's still going to have that same role where he comes in for these trick plays or these gadget plays, maybe does a few things here and there. But at this point, it looks like Jameis Winston is going to be the guy at quarterback, taking the majority of the snaps, getting a majority of the touches out of the backfield, whether it be passing attempts or whatever they decide to do. Taysom Hill's going to come in and maybe take a snap here or there and run the football, or again, maybe he plays tight end or goes out to wide receiver. For me, though, to own him at 56%, that's too much. We got to drop him. We got to get rid of him. He's not going to really be doing that much. Maybe if you're like in a super flex or a 2 QB league and you find yourself in a weird position in a bye week or an injury or something, but we don't need to worry about that. We can go pick him up if we really get to that point at some point during the season. For the running back position, let's go ahead and talk about Mark Ingram to start. I mean, this is going to be David Johnson and Phillip Lindsay. And quite honestly, I was thinking that Mark Ingram might not even make the roster, but he's 45% owned in fantasy leagues right now. And that's just a little bit too high. They did come out and say, hey, we're going to go with a committee type of backfield here. But I got to assume that David Johnson is still going to be the guy to get a majority of those touches. But they brought in Phillip Lindsay after he just wasn't retained by the Broncos. And that was more of an indication to me that, hey, we would really love Phillip Lindsay to be like our 1B type guy than what Mark Ingram would be. Mark Ingram's going to be more of just a ground and pound guy, maybe some short yardage situations, maybe some goal line situations. But the majority of the touches are going to go to David Johnson and Phillip Lindsay. David Johnson should still see some pass catches, some targets out of the backfield. They released Kiki Cutie, which is going to open up maybe a few. They did bring in Anthony Miller. They've got Nico Collins. They've got Brandon Cooks. But they don't have anybody that goes boom, right? They don't have anybody that pops out on this Texans roster. And at this point, again, no Deshaun Watson. Do they make a run at a guy like Cam Newton? Do they go with who's on the roster? More than likely at this point, we're going to go with who's on the roster, and I'm just not feeling it. I'm going to go ahead and move away from Mark Ingram. Just not enough touches for me. Tarik Cohen at 54%. He's going to start the season on the PUP, the physically unable to perform list. And because of that, he is not going to be eligible for activation until week 6. And even when he comes back in week 6, we know for a fact this offseason that Cohen has had trouble progressing back from his injury last year. And at the end of last season, David Montgomery was getting all of the touches in the world out of the backfield, and he was doing just fine with it. In fact, he was winning fantasy leagues for a lot of people last year. And if Cohen does come back in week 6, that's already given more than enough time for Damian Williams to carve out some sort of a role for himself. So Cohen's going to be coming back to an opportunity where there isn't a whole lot of touches, haven't played in 6 weeks. He's going to need to practice for a while. So probably the soonest that we see him actually get into like real, live, meaningful touches is probably going to be week 7, 8, 9. It's too long for me to hold on to Cohen. Even if you can put him in an IR spot right now, he's going to be coming back to a full backfield, a team that hopefully will be throwing it a little bit with Andy Dalton or Justin Fields, and won't just be relying on throwing it to guys out of the backfield, because if the defense holds up and they have leads, then we're going to see David Montgomery pounding the ball on the ground. They've got 2 tight ends that can really help this year in Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham. Obviously, we've got Allen Robinson there, and of course, Darnell Mooney. There's just, for me, no reason really to own Cohen right now. And Todd Gurley, I see a lot of people grabbing him. As at this point, he's only 38% owned, which isn't that high, but there's still people trying to grab him right now because they're like, oh, I can stash him, and then if he signs somewhere. No, listen, if he was going to sign somewhere, he would have signed somewhere by now. And I know that it keeps being brought up that, oh, Baltimore is going to be looking for someone that, even if Baltimore brings in Todd Gurley, he's not going to do anything. The knees are shot at this point. He doesn't have the same juice that he used to. If he were, for some reason or another, coming to Baltimore, it's going to be strictly for depth. Probably not going to get a lot of touches. The guy has lost a step. He's not healthy. His career probably at this point is done, which is really sad to say because, I mean, this was a guy who was the top running back just a couple of short years ago, and now he's really fallen from grace, and he is a guy that we're basically saying we're done with, not going to own, we're dropping him to free agency. For wide receiver, Kadarius Toney at 58% owned. I mean, a lot of us, when he was drafted, it made absolutely no sense for the New York Giants. And nothing has happened this offseason that has made us change that thought process. I mean, it started at the beginning of camp. He missed time in camp because he fell onto the COVID list. He missed a lot of really good reps that he needed to develop in this system. Then he had issues being banged up. Then he's had issues performance-wise, some drops, just not running very good routes. He just has not really sparkled in camp the way that you would expect one of your main picks to sparkle. This is a guy right now at 58% owned. Honestly, until he shows me otherwise, he's going to be overshadowed by Saquon Barkley. He's going to be overshadowed by Kenny Golladay if Kenny Galladay's healthy. He's on track to play week 1 as of right now. But Kadarius Toney is just on track, and I'm using air quotes because he isn't 100% healthy. And you've got Sterling Shepard. You've got Darius Slayton. You've got Evan Ingram. So there's more than enough weapons to throw to there. Kadarius Toney isn't going to be making an impact anytime soon, ladies and gentlemen. I just don't see that happening. And if he does, then try to grab him at that point. But is he going to make a big enough impact that you're going to regret not picking him up? No, absolutely not. T.Y. Hilton at 83% owned. Go ahead and drop him. He's going to be missing some time with a neck injury. I mean, we're talking probably the first month or so of the season. And then at that point, when he comes back, how healthy will he actually be? And what is he going to come back to? An offense that wants to run the ball with Jonathan Williams? Excuse me, Jonathan Taylor. We're doing a little bit of a throwback there to Williams. They want to run the ball with Taylor, right? They're going to throw the ball to anybody out of the backfield, to either Taylor or Nyheim Hines. Paris Campbell's back, right? We got Michael Pittman Jr. He's a guy that could take a step forward and be the wide receiver 1 on this team. This is a team that has always utilized their tight ends. You got Jack Mother and Doyle, who it feels like forever since we've talked about. You got Mo Cox, Mo Alley Cox there as well. What's he going to be coming back to? Is he even going to be coming back to a team that's going to offer him enough? I mean, T.Y. Hilton is the guy that really came back on a 1-year deal just because there was nothing else around. And I feel like wide receiver-wise, the Colts were like, we're going to bring you back. I mean, if you're healthy, great. If you're not, it's not really... He was really brought back kind of on a 1-year deal just because, a little bit of depth. He wasn't brought back to be the wide receiver 1. If they were really looking to pay for that, they would have went and got somebody. And Jamison Crowder at 81%. Now, don't get me wrong. Big Jamison Crowder fan. Absolutely love him. I think he's done really, really good things. I think he's been very viable for fantasy owners during his career at times. But this is not the season, and we're probably coming to an end of the Jamison Crowder era. Definitely love any guy that gets a ton of targets out of the slot. But you've got more options there now, all right? Yeah, he's probably going to be the wide receiver 3. And this is a defense that isn't going to be that great, so they're probably going to be throwing it quite a bit. But there's just other options that we're going to want to take a look at there. I mean, Corey Davis has looked excellent in New York this offseason. Him and Zach Wilson really seem to have a connection. We've got Denzel Mims, the big draft pick from last year. You know, is he going to break out? There was some talk about potentially releasing him. I never really bought into that. I didn't think they were ever really going to do that. He needs to take a step forward, but they've got him there. They've got Elijah Moore, who they just spent a draft pick on, who is better than Jamison Crowder. I don't see him getting enough targets to warrant even an 81 ownership percentage. The only place that Jamison Crowder might make any type of an impact would be a full PPR league, but he would have to get probably 6 to 8 targets a week to make that work. And with the other wide receivers there, I just don't see that happening. And finally, at the tight end position, Eric Ebron for me at 45% owned. I'm done with Eric Ebron. Yes, last year he could be used at times, and there was a lot of you last year that gave me a hard time because I was consistently listing Eric Ebron as a sit, and it was because he just was not consistent enough. I mean, yeah, there would be weeks where we'd list him as a sit, and he would, score a touchdown and he was getting a decent amount of targets at one point. But they've brought in the Moose. Right? Pat Freiermuth. He's looked really, really good this offseason. He looks like a tight end that is developing quickly. And you don't normally see that with rookie tight ends. But he is a guy that in 2 tight end sets could jump in right away and take targets from Eric Ebron. I always say this about tight ends. Okay? Yeah, they might be the number 1 tight end on the team. But if they're running 2 tight end sets, it is going to take away from him. Okay, I said it quite a bit last year about like Austin Hooper with David Njoku, with Bryant there. I said, yeah, you might like Austin Hooper, but he's not going to be used the same way. And even if he is on the field quite a bit in 2 tight end sets, that there's just another tight end to take targets away from him. Tight ends that play in a lot of 2 tight end sets, except for potentially like the top tier guys, lose too much potential value on any given play. Same thing goes with Eric Ebron. And of course, we know the wide receivers there are good. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster when he's not out there being a moron doing the milk carton challenge. I've defended Juju plenty of this offseason, but the milk carton challenge, okay, Juju, calm down. We don't need you falling off of those. Normally, I would say it's not that big of a deal, but if you've watched some of these viral videos of the way people wipe out, oh my God, Juju could go out for a while if he falls like that. So anyway, and Najee Harris, they drafted Najee Harris in the first round. They're going to get back to that ground and pound type of game that they used to do. He's going to be utilized a lot. So Eric Ebron does not have the similar value that he used to. And if you grabbed him as either a tight end 2 or maybe a late round tight end because you were like, hey, I'll just grab him as my second tight end, we'll see what happens. Nope. It's not worth it. I'm not interested in Eric Ebron. O.J. Howard, some of the same things that I just mentioned with Eric Ebron. You've got Rob Gronkowski there. If they're running 2 tight end sets with O.J. Howard and Gronkowski has that connection with Tom Brady. He's going to be looked at possibly a little bit more than what O.J. Howard would. On top of that, you've got really good wide receivers, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. All right? Those are the guys. Those are the guys that are big-time players, right? Those are the guys they're going to be going to. And you have a stable of running backs this year as well. You've got Rojo. You've got Leonard Fournette. You've got Gio Bernard. They brought in Gio Bernard, who I'm not sold on having a whole bunch of touches at any point in time this season, but that's just still another mouth to potentially feed. So for O.J. Howard, yeah, he might have a great play every now and then. He might have a big game and potentially come down with a couple of touchdowns or score a big time TD or break off a couple of big plays, but he's not going to be consistent enough. And it's going to be an inconsistency that's going to be hard to call on a weekly basis. So you're never in a given week going to be able to say, oh, this is a great tight end matchup. I'm going to start him here, but not with this offense. Not with this offense. Not with Rob Gronkowski. Not with the rest of them. Just can't do it. Can't do it. So those are players right now who I feel are far too owned in fantasy leagues across the board. Some must-drop players for you. Got this question a lot last year. When we do like our waiver wire videos, hey, can you add in like some must-drops? We might potentially start with that this year. Let me know down in the comments below if that's something that you want, and we'll see if we can make it work. But do me a favor, if you're new here to the Fantasy Headliners, hit that subscribe button and stick around for all that sweet, sweet Week 1 content. It's coming really, really soon. Again, leave a comment down below and like the video. Always appreciate the likes here on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to roll Week 1 right around the corner. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.